What was the creepiest thing that ever happened to you when you were at home?
One night, while hanging out in our living room, my husband asked me if I heard that. Heard what? I asked. He just kind of shrugged, then shook his head and went on doing what he was doing. He has better hearing than me, so I shrugged, as well. He often perceives things that I don't or picks up on sounds that get under his skin when they don't even register for me. It wasn't unusual, but then he got up and peered outside. He was flustered. He asked me if I was playing something on my computer on low or something that had laughing in it, but I wasn't playing anything with audio. He then asked me if I heard laughing. Nope, I heard nothing like that at all. My answer bothered him. He said that he could hear laughing coming from outside, that it sounded demonic but kind of like how Bowser laughs when you lose a level in Mario. I definitely didn't hear anything of the sort. That only seemed to agitate him more. He paced by the windows a bit but eventually gave it up and went back to piddling on his tablet only to suddenly get up and go outside to investigate. At first I thought he was being goofy and just messing with me, but that's not really how he jokes around with me, and he was noticeably frustrated. He's not the sort of person who gets worked up. Seeing him like that was odd. Eventually, though, he calmed down and we went to bed. The next night he heard the laugh again. This time it really bothered him. He kept walking the perimeter of the house and went outside every time he thought he heard the laughter, but as soon as he passed through the door the sound stopped. I still didn't hear it. This happened for several nights in a row. It started eating at him, enough so that he considered looking around for a therapist because he was afraid he might be suffering from a mental health crisis. His family has a history of schizophrenia. I was so worried about him. Nothing could be done to soothe him. He stayed up later and later, unable to sleep because of the laugh and not knowing its source. He became really withdrawn, stuck inside his head. It was so scary seeing him like that. Then, a couple nights later, when I went outside to bring the trash can to the road, I heard it. That creepy Bowser laugh. It echoed down the street, bouncing off the few houses on it. It felt like it filled the air with that deep, strange, undulation. It scared the absolute beep out of me. I ran inside to get my husband, but it had stopped by the time we scrambled out the door again. We listened for the longest time, standing out in the dark in absolute silence. I was so freaked out, but I wanted to know what the beep was going on. I refused to go back inside until we heard it again, together, and could confirm that it was something we both perceived at the same time. It felt like an eternity of standing at the edge of the road when the laughter started again. It was louder and longer than before. We determined that it was coming from down the road. He grabbed a flashlight and a baseball bat, then we headed in that direction. It's worth noting now that we lived in the sticks at the time. The road was a short country road that ended in a cul-de-sac that was the turnabout for a farm. In fact, the whole street had once been part of that farm's property, but the owners had sold bits and pieces of land off over the years so that there were about half a dozen houses situated on the access road, each of which sat on their own 3 to 20 acres. Most everyone had some sort of livestock, so we were used to the sounds of donkeys, goats, cows, and even peacocks. We knew what fox screams sounded like and were familiar with the cries of coyotes. Yet, we had never heard anything like this laugh before. So with that in mind, there we were, walking down a dark road in the middle of BFE trying to figure what the beep was going on and what was producing that laugh. We were halfway between our house and the end of the road when we again heard that awful, possessed, crazed laugh. That deep, guttural, scary beep laugh. It came from our right from the direction of a paddock. A paddock with a pond. A pond that was home to a bunch of ducks. One of which did a great Bowser impression. Edit. For the record, I know duck quacks don't actually echo like I described, but, man, it certainly seemed like it did.
XGF walked suddenly out of my bedroom down the hall, opened the closet by the door, grabbed a pair of her shoes from the back, said, "I've been looking for these," and left. This was 4 months after I'd broken up with her. Still not sure how she got into my bedroom, but I changed all the locks and got a security system after that.
Posted this before my 4-year-old son had a habit of announcing when he had to use the bathroom. He would say, "I gotta go potty." One time he makes his business known and heads off toward the bathroom. He returns seconds later and says there's already someone in the bathroom. Now I do know for a fact that it's just the two of us home, so the hair stands up on my neck. I ask him, "What do you mean?" He repeats, "There's already someone in the bathroom." Now I'm thinking, is it someone I see dead people, or someone in a hockey goalie mask? so I grab the biggest knife from my knife block and tell him to stay here. I walk to the bathroom, take a wide angle to see in, nobody. Slowly and quietly walk toward the shower and pull back the curtain. Nothing. By now my son has walked around the corner and I ask him, "Where did you see the person?" He points to an unflushed toilet and says, "See, someone's already here." His big brother didn't flush the toilet.
End of the semester. My junior year in college, I lived in a 3-story townhome, where the first story was just a carport and you take stairs around the back to get to the front door. Anyway, by this time in the year most of the students had left the college town except for the ones that had finals on the last day of finals, e.g. me and my roommate. So we had been studying till about 3 in the morning and we both ended up knocking out on these couches we had on the main floor by the front door. At around 4:30 a.m., I think, I heard my roommate get up and lock the door. That woke me up, and in a half-asleep state I asked him, "Why are you locking the door?" He responded that someone just opened the door and closed it. I was too tired to care and attributed it to him sleepwalking and laid my head back down and closed my eyes. Not 30 seconds later, I hear the front door start to rattle and see the knob turning. I looked at my roommate and we both stayed silent and still. I grabbed a knife I had on the coffee table and just waited frozen still. Eventually it stopped, after what felt like 30 minutes, but was probably 30 seconds, and we heard a truck start and drive away. When we woke up the next day we saw cop cars outside, and apparently like 7 out of the 10 houses in my community had been broken into and robbed.
I felt somebody staring intently at me. It woke me up and I couldn't bear it. I had to forcibly wake my husband up and have him escort me downstairs to where my dog was sleeping so I could cuddle him as my husband made me a drink. It took several hours and daylight before I could go back into my bedroom, and that night I insisted on bringing my dog upstairs with me. I never felt anything like that again. What's even more disturbing is my bedroom window leads directly onto a house extension, and it would be very easy for somebody or something to get up there and stare through my bedroom window. Yes, we checked. I found out weeks later that my husband found what looked like muddy fingerprints on the outside of the window that he didn't tell me about.
It happened when I was 8 years old. I was home alone waiting for my piano tutor. I heard someone opening the front door, so I ran to the entrance saying, "Teach?" Then, whoever it was slammed the door shut and ran out of my home. I immediately locked every locks on the door and trembled till my actual piano tutor arrived my house for a lesson.
As a child I grew up in a mid-rise in Amsterdam. They're kind of old houses with really bad insulation built in the 1930s or so. Above us lived a loner guy with severe schizophrenia, and thanks to the cardboard walls and floors, we could hear him to talk to himself and sometimes shout or scream. One day he decided to have something against my parents and openly plotted to murder my dad with himself, and we could hear everything. We called the police and my dad had a confrontation with the guy on the stairwell connecting our homes. Fortunately nothing happened and the guy was arrested and spent a year in a clinic where he got treated for his psychosis. But yeah, hearing all that as a little kid was frightening and confusing.
A few months ago a man was at the door at around 2 a.m. saying pew pew.
40 missed calls from mum.
Cricket watching me take a bath.
May your day be filled with joy and happiness. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe for more quality content every day.